Okay, today's day 2 on solving equations. We're going to review very quickly on adding and subtracting, and then we're going to lead into multiplying and dividing. So do not forget that the same rules apply. The first thing you want to do is you want to find your variable. On the side with my variable, I want to know what's going on with it. It's a subtract 7. So the opposite of subtract 7 is add 7. So you're going to do that to both sides. Because these are the opposite of each other, these cancel each other off, and you're left with x equals, and now you're going to do your math, 12 plus 7, they're both positive, and so I'm going to get an answer of 19. Okay, let's look at another one maybe that might have a decimal. Let's say we have s plus 1.2 is equal to negative 4.1. Okay, so at this point, my variable, I'm adding 1.2. To get rid of that, I need to subtract 1.2. So these cancel off because they're opposite operations. Now I'm going to write this out. This was a negative 4.1 minus 1.2. Remember, we can't subtract, so we need to rewrite it. We're going to take the first number, bring it straight down, do not change subtract to add, and make this a negative 1.2. So now at this point, I have two negatives, so I'm going to continue to add them. So I get s equals negative 5.3. So that would be your answer. Okay? Now, if you need to, go back and rewatch, ask me. We can go over a few more examples if you need to. Now, today what we're going to start to talk about is what happens when we have an equation that involves operations of multiply and divide. So, for instance, remember that when the coefficient and the variable are together, that means the operation of multiply. Now, so we have 2 times n is equal to 12. So you're going to, same steps, find your variable, what operation is going on with your variable. To undo it, you need to do the inverse. So instead of multiplying by 2, I'm going to divide by 2. So now we know that 2 over 2 becomes 1. So it disappeared, the number disappears in front of n. Remember, what's the coefficient in front of n when no number is there? It's 1. Now we have 12 minus 2, and we get 6. Okay? What if we have a negative? If we have x over negative 7 equals 10, a lot of you are still getting hung up going, I don't know what that means. Remember, that's an operation of divide. So we have x divided by negative 7. The opposite of dividing by negative 7 would be to multiply by negative 7. So I'm going to put brackets around, and I'm going to put a negative 7. Okay? Now, negative 7 over negative 7 cancels off. Because remember, this one looks like it's on top because I can make it a fraction. So the top and the bottom can reduce. So I'm left with x equals, and then 10 times negative 7 would be negative 70. Okay? Let's look at a couple more examples, maybe that include fractions or decimals. Okay. All right, let's talk about this one. Math teachers really don't like this variable over on the right, so we want to move it to the left. Now, I can do that by moving everything here from the right to the left side, and then everything from the left side to the right side. So I'm going to rewrite it from the beginning. So I haven't changed anything mathematically. I just made it look different. Now, here, my variable, I'm multiplying by 3.7. So at this point, I'm going to divide by 3.7. Now, you have the use of your Desmos calculator. You can actually long division it out if you need to. But my answer, remember, negative divided by positive is negative. And then when I divide, I get 9. Okay? All right. Here's a good one for us. Okay, it's going to bring back a lot for you to have to remember from fractions. First thing you need to do is change these both to improper fractions. So remember, you're going to take your whole number, multiply by your bottom, add your top. So 3 times 6 is 18, plus 1 is 19. 5 times 7 is 35, plus 1 is 36. Don't forget your negative. Now that negative can go with the top. It's fine. Okay? Now, again, my variable, I'm multiplying. Well, typically we would divide, but can you divide fractions? That was something we learned back in 4th grade, I believe. You cannot divide a fraction. You have to multiply by the reciprocal. The reciprocal is taking that fraction and flipping it upside down. So we actually want to multiply this by 6 over 19. I flip that. And then I want to do the other side by the same fraction. Okay? And now this cancels off and we get V equals. Now, a couple of things you can do here. You can change that to a decimal. You can change this to a decimal, multiply the two. You can multiply your fractions, and then we can kind of change maybe if it was improper back to mixed. Okay, so let's see what happens. Let's multiply our 36 by 6. So we get 216 on top. We get 133 on the bottom. So therefore we know it's improper. Okay, to come out from improper, okay, that will go one time. And we need to see what our remainder would be. Okay, so that is going to look like negative, don't forget your negative, because negative divided by positive is a negative, 1 and 83 over 133. Okay, so that's a lot of review even on a fraction, okay, that we should have remembered knowledge of how to multiply, okay. Some things were different about as far as solving the equation and multiplying by the reciprocal. But as far as multiplying a fraction, you should already know how to do that. If not, we can review. Just remember to write it down and ask questions tomorrow in class.